Good morning, everybody. This looks darker on this one now today. I'm using a different phone.
Oh, different phone. Interesting.
Yeah, because the other one, I forgot to charge it, so. What's up, folks?
I feel like there's so much.
And that's what I was literally just thinking that. Like it's.
What is
There we
going
go.
on today?
That's good. Now I gotta push mine away. All right, are you in mine? Am I in yours?
Yes.
Get closer.
We are in the frame.
Hi, everybody. Okay. What's up, guys?
It's coffee talk time.
Rhonda's on. What's up, Rhonda?
Oh, Rhonda's on. Rhonda's got a long.
Somebody is
comment
talking.
there. Oh no, somebody
Vadim. What's up, Vadim? He said, "Uh-oh, I have been afflicted with emotional comfort eating for over 3/4 of my life."
Ooh, so there's our topic.
There's our
today.
topic for today.
For those
I had
on
a feeling that would
Instagram
get
who
people.
may not
That would get
have
people
seen
interested.
The title.
Yeah.
What is the title today?
Emotional eating is a lie.
It's a lie.
It is. It's not a thing. It is
not
a
a
thing,
thing.
but it is. It is. It isn't. What's up, Jody? Jody's new in our program.
In
She just
your
joined.
program,
Yep.
in your boot camp.
Good morning, Jody. And Rhonda's like, I caught a live. Yay, I got a live.
Yay! What up,
Awesome.
folks? I got some folks checking in on Instagram.
Okay, so it is
Jackie.
cloudy. It is we're in the middle of a fog. Are we in the middle of a
It's
cloud?
so
It looks
foggy.
like it is
Yes.
so foggy out there.
I'm gonna show my fan. You want to show them? It's like zero visibility right now. Look at that. All
Foggy,
fogged
foggy.
out. That's what happens when you're in a high rise. We discovered when we first moved in, it was
Yeah.
like, why is it always so foggy out there in the mornings? And it's like,
Because we're
we're just
we're up.
pretty high. Yeah.
All right, so we were talking yesterday, right? This is one of the cool things that makes it easy for us as content
Creators,
content
if you
creators,
wanna call it
influencers,
that.
whatever, is we don't have to sit down and think, what are we going to talk about on the next video that we're doing? We just literally, because we're
Get
coaches,
inspired
we have conversations every day
with our clients.
and things
and
that we
then
see.
we will talk to each other about something,
Right.
about a particular topic that came up with a client, and then that gets us riffing, and then we're like, oh, we need to
We got to talk about
we're
this.
gonna
We
make
got to
this
talk
the
about
next
this tomorrow.
coffee chat.
So yesterday you had a client, or somebody posted
Yes,
something.
and I
you wanna-
forgot to reread it, so I don't have it in front of
Well,
me. But
what was the gist?
the concept? Well, this is a constant discussion, right?
Yeah.
So it's not like this happened one time with one person, right? This is constantly a thing.
It's what we deal with most of the time.
But what I'm grateful for is that more and more of my ladies are feeling more comfortable being vulnerable and sharing about their experiences
Yeah.
with emotional eating, and then being able to lean on the community and share that in the forums, and then we'll have another post and another post and another post, right? So this one was, I'm always pushing and encouraging my community, my audience, my clients to lean in, and the only way out is through. Lean into the difficult emotions. And so it's not a simple, I can't give you a hack that's going to fix this for you.
Well, that was the question,
It's
right?
not a, no.
No, that wasn't the-
Well, no, it wasn't specifically that. It was, it was post binge, and it was, okay, I just had a binge the other day. I have this cycle. I will do well for X amount of time. And for each person, it's a little different. Sometimes it's 7 days.
Sometimes it's 1 day.
5 days. Sometimes it's 5 weeks.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's months. And then, boom, it happens again. An emotional episode where the awareness is now there that I did not do this because I was hungry. I did not do this because I was craving. It was purely emotional. Every time I do this, it's an emotional trigger. It's an emotional experience. Mm-hmm. I'm stressed. I'm upset. I'm sad, whatever it might be. And instead of sitting down and dealing with that, I start eating and then I don't stop. And then I come out the other side like, damn, this is now ruining my progress. And it's happened again and again, and I can only make it so far, and I'll make some progress, and then I backtrack on the progress. I have to start over again.
Starts that loop of guilt and depression and
And
getting
all of
on
that.
yourself and everything else. And then that's a whole nother.
And so her question
spiral.
was, how do I stop it in the moment before I do it? How do I, I wish I remember the exact language.
Yeah.
You might have said it.
I don't remember, but that's basically what it was. Like,
how do I catch it, basically?
How do I catch it before I do it, right? And it's that.
And I said to you, what started this whole thing was we were driving, and I was like,
We were going to the gym.
Yeah, that's right. I was like, I've got to ask your thoughts on this, because sometimes I get really stuck. I think about my own experience. I think about being on one side and being on the other side. And if I had a quick answer, if I could bottle this up and sell it, I'd be a bazillionaire and nobody would ever have this problem ever again.
What's the one thing that everyone can do to never make those bad choices again?
It's not even just about the choices. It's about the not avoiding the emotions and not turning to food when you have an emotional event.
Yeah.
How do you stop the autopilot that you have done for a very long time? That's a habit. So it goes beyond the emotional and it goes into the habit loops and brain retraining and all of that, right? It's really all about brain retraining. How do I stop myself from doing this thing that's been on autopilot?
And that's what you just said.
How do I know it's about to happen and stop it?
Right. And what you just said is this: the habit, the autopilot. And what we're going to talk about today, there's probably 8 different layers of this whole conversation we can talk about. But I think what we'll probably center around today comes from the why. We talk about our why all the time. You guys hear us. You got to know your why. And I want to remind everybody that it's not just your why. Why do you want to be on this journey? Why do you want to get better? But it's also, why are you doing the things that you're doing? There's 4 or 5 different ways we can apply the whole ask why and dig into the why of things. Yeah. It's not just, why do you want this?
It's not cliche.
Why do you keep doing this? Why are you thinking this? Why is this a habit loop that you have? And when we talk about emotional eating, I love how you said autopilot. It's because we haven't understood why we have the responses to the things. Now, when we dig into that, the most common reason we have the responses of using food to numb or avoid emotion is because we're trying to avoid emotion. And that's where the root of this whole issue comes from. And you said this a while ago when we were first talking, not when we were first started dating or hanging out, but a while ago you had said something about emotional eating doesn't exist. It's not a thing. Yeah. Emotional eating is a why.
Oh boy, did I trigger some people when I
It's
said
the
that.
avoidance of emotion that is the problem. And that's really what that root, that autopilot comes from, is you have a built-in safety system.
Yep.
And that's what it is. It's that limbic. It's very much like we talk about the limbic brain, the lizard brain. Your body, you're trying to, because you have classified emotion as harmful.
Scary.
It's scary, painful. I don't want to deal with it, whatever it is.
Risky.
I had a client at one point. I did a consult with someone a few months ago, and it wasn't even just the painful stuff. She grew up in an environment where any emotion was basically punished. She couldn't be too happy. She couldn't be too sad. She couldn't be too angry. She couldn't be too...
Expressing yourself was...
Just expressing emotion was kiboshed in her environment growing up. So she literally, and on the call, she basically said, I don't want to be emotional, period. She wanted to be a Vulcan, just all logic, no emotion, no feeling, just everything is completely in her brain, nothing in her heart. And we had a long heart-to-heart, be like, look, you cannot live a human existence in any semblance of health and have healthy relationships and have a healthy work environment and have anything in your life without emotion. That's the human condition, is emotion. That's where everything comes from. So I'll let you riff on that a little bit more, but it's like understanding that avoiding emotion is where a lot of this stuff comes from.
Yeah, if you're turning to food in any emotional state, any heightened emotional state is a good way of putting it, right? Because it's like, it's an emotional state that's not the norm. It's not what you're experiencing 99% of the time. It's these, or I should probably say maybe 80% of the time, right? Because probably a lot of the time we actually are in a heightened emotional state. And all it is to, one of the things that helps you not to beat yourself up over this is that that's exactly what you've been trained to do and taught to do and programmed to do over your life. Yeah. Whether it was, and a lot of that is unconscious. She came to that realization, right? Before that, she probably wasn't even aware that that was where that came from, right? And all of this, the awareness, the recognition of where this comes from, what was this doing in my life? Why is it in my life? What is it doing for me? That's all the work we're talking about. That's the kind of work when you, and this is really the crux of what I got into yesterday with this client, until you spend time understanding those emotions, you will not be able, there's no way you're going to be able to assess and address ahead of time in the moment until you spend time on it when you're not be in the middle of the trigger. So it's not even just about jumping into feeling the uncomfortable, scary, risky feelings. It's about understanding those better first. So we'll talk about the process of that. Yeah. I wanted to respond to what you were saying, and now I forgot what it was. It's about about the avoidance, right? Whenever we are going to food or anything else, could be Netflix, could be sex, could be drugs, could be alcohol.
Sex.
Right? All of these things.
Can I use sex as a coping mechanism? That'd be awesome.
It's the ultimate coping mechanism.
Sex and sleep.
Oh. Yeah, and sleep can be positive or negative too.
Sure.
When you're I know a lot of depressed people who sleep half the day. I did in 2020 when I was in the midst of my bulimia. I would sleep half the day.
Well, here's some other ones. Exercise.
Oh, yep. Anything can be a negative. It's not, here's the thing, it's not coping. It's avoiding. That's the biggest thing we want to get across today. When you're turning to other things instead of dealing with the issue, you are avoiding, you are not coping. It is not helping you cope. It is helping you delay. It is delaying the coping. It is delaying managing. It is delaying healing. It is delaying. Everything is on the other side of that real issue. And that's what I mean by the only way out is through.
Yeah,
you are never going to heal or fix anything when you're not addressing it. And that's all this is doing, is allowing you to shift the focus to something else. And with food and drugs and any of these vices, it's because they give us a pleasurable moment.
Right.
And that's all it is a pleasurable moment. And then it's fleeting and it passes, and most of the time you're going to feel a million times worse afterwards, emotionally, physically now, because you probably made yourself sick, mentally, all of it. It's impacting you negatively.
It's like not doing your laundry.
Yeah, I'm not going to look at it.
I'm not going to look at it. I'll just let it pile up over here, and then it piles up and it piles up, and then at some point, eventually, you have to do your laundry.
And now you have to do 10 times more.
And now you have to do 3 weeks worth of laundry. If you'd have just done it the first time, it wouldn't have been as much of a pain in the butt. But now you got to take all day, all weekend, whatever it is, to do all this laundry that you've been letting sit up.
Same with cleaning your kitchen, more disruptive. Cleaning your bathrooms, cleaning your floors. It's like,
we talk about me and my work ethic now and how I work, and how my mom is like, who the hell are you? Because when I was growing up, I was that person who they would have to ask me 8 times in a day to go take out the trash, because I'll get to it later and just keep doing whatever I was doing, and I would never do it. Or, it was my job to vacuum the living room or whatever, and I would just never do it. And then at some point in my life as an adult in the Army, I got something out of the Army. I experienced this epiphany of, the longer I take to do it, the longer I can't do the things I want to do.
Ooh, you connected it to your why.
Right?
Basically.
I don't want to keep dealing with this, so why am I putting it off?
Yep. Yep.
Right? Every time I'm confronted with it and I push it away, I have to get confronted again.
You made the connection that
I'm
it's
pushing
not
it,
actually going anywhere.
and then it's coming back, and then I'm pushing it and it's coming back. It's like, if I just deal with it
They're
and
not
just get
gonna
it
let
done.
you're in a situation where they didn't let you off the hook.
Yeah, they don't let you off the hook.
So here's the rub, y'all. Whenever, and this comes up again and again with clients, and every time it does, what do I say?
What?
The only way out is
The only way out is through, yeah.
The reason you get results, you can get better results when you're working with a coach, is a perfect example.
Accountability.
You're no longer being let off the hook.
Yeah.
If you didn't, and this is one of the reasons why we take photos every week,
Excuse
we do measurements,
killers. Excuse killers.
we do daily weigh-ins. It's not to punish you or to make you get on the scale. It desensitizes, and we talked about this the other day too. It desensitizes my clients to the scale. Mm-hmm. The more you have to get on and look at it, because guess what? It ain't going anywhere. You're expected to do it every day.
Ooh.
It's not going away. Not doing it is not going to fix the situation. So they have to come in and they have to do these things and they have to look at it again and again and again. It's no different than with your emotions. The more time you spend on your emotions, the less scary and daunting it becomes, just like cleaning the house, just like doing the laundry.
It's creating a different habit, right? And it's a skill. So the more you've spent years avoiding and building habits to help you avoid, right? Now, if you start changing that paradigm and start thinking about how can I get better at doing this, then you start developing actual coping mechanisms and actually being able to manage the process and control the reactions and the responses and the habits that you have when you have these things. You can say, I'm feeling angry right now. Why am I feeling that? What can I do about it? And then you have a process. Acknowledge the feeling, understand the feeling. What are my options? Make a decision. And you can start repeating that process and building that skill and that habit up instead of, I'm angry, I need to go eat something. And that's the only thing that you know how to do.
And the best part of this is that because you're addressing the core issue, it will have all the positive effects on the other things.
Yeah.
Versus trying to attack it with going keto, going carnivore, getting macros.
Thinking that all that stuff's going to fix the problem.
Yes,
because it's
exactly.
not.
It doesn't fix it. This is why so many people on keto or carnivore get results at the beginning and then stop getting results.
Yep.
Because the habits never changed.
Yeah. They just changed the label of what they were doing.
They changed the food selection.
Right.
So now instead of binging on chips, you're binging on pork rinds. Now instead of binging on cake, you're binging on
bacon,
keto bars.
Or
right?
anything.
And then you go carnivore and you're like, oh, that'll fix it. And it does for a little while because you're no longer buying keto bars. Yep. But now you're making brown butter bites or you're just eating sticks of butter.
I wish those things had never been created.
Oh, speaking of. Shout out to Carnivore Bar. Because
well, not in the context of not wishing that they'd never been created.
Well, I'm feeling that way a little bit today
because
he got a delivery from Carnivore Bar.
Yes. I will probably start doing some affiliation with Carnivore Bar. I love their product. I just don't do a lot of it because it's so fatty. So it's going to be interesting to see how this works. I want to promote them and I want to be an affiliate with them, but I also don't eat them as much because from a fat content perspective, there's so much fat in them. I can't eat them all the time.
It's like Keto Brick.
It's like Keto Brick. I love Keto Brick. I love talking about Keto Brick. I think it's a great thing for a lot of people. I just don't do a lot of it because it's a trap for me. I will stuff my face with Keto Brick and then I won't reach my goals.
It had been a couple of years, I think, since I tried Carnivore Bar, KetoCon, maybe a year ago. Last year's KetoCon. Yep. And so they sent one of each bar, and I really wanted to try the honey one.
They're really good.
The honey salted.
They're really good.
So yesterday I cut like a little piece off, and he tried it too. It was really good, and I was like, oh damn.
I was like, we can't.
I was like, this is too good.
I had one little bite of it. It was like, I'm done.
I put it in the freezer.
Can't do it.
And then throughout the rest of the day, I found myself going back and getting a little bit more.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Did you really?
I did.
Is it gone?
It's gone.
That's awesome.
So
good, because then I don't have to eat it.
Maybe if I
could
fit that in a bulk, but we're in a cut right now, and
right,
I'm not opening any other bars.
Yeah, keep them closed.
I don't think they will be as tempting as the honey though, because the honey and salt,
Yeah, there was a second honey one. They had 2 honey ones.
they had a honey barbecue with
honey barbecue.
pluck seasonings, which
Oh,
reminds
pluck.
me,
Okay.
my pluck
Your
seasoning.
pluck's
should be
downstairs.
coming.
Yeah. Okay.
So for code for pluck, you can check out my Instagram. And soon enough, he'll probably have a carnivore bar one. So anyway, all that to say,
What?
the
Go get
foods-
some carnivore bar.
keto and carnivore are not going to solve your emotional
No.
avoidance issues.
Right.
All right.
Yeah.
And they have really delicious products that you will still overeat if you might be having an emotional episode that you are not dealing with the real issue.
Yeah.
So
the first step in this process of what is the magic bullet that's going to help keep you from binging, or that's going to help you avoid the trap of emotional, air quotes, eating. Is to
put in the work, put in the time.
Well, to work on your perception of emotions.
Ooh, yes, that's it.
That's the step. That's the first step. You
That's
you
the
can't
work. That's the
right.
work
You
to do.
can't move beyond how do I change my reaction, or how do I change my actions or habits if you haven't removed the perception you have about them in the first place. So you can't react differently until you start thinking differently. So how do I feel? Here's the question. Why do I try to avoid feeling regret? Or why do I try to avoid feeling anger? Or why do I try to avoid feeling stressed? Why does feeling like I've got too much to do and I don't have enough time to do it stress me out and I have to go eat something? Those are the questions that you need to start asking. Why, when I have an argument with my significant other, do I then want to go get ice cream? Why, when my kids are pissing me off, do I want to eat a bag of chips? Or whatever it may be. So thinking about those types of things and working through those things and being okay with the discomfort. I have a bunch of clients.
That's it right there, because here's the thing. I want to say this real quick.
Yeah.
You may never, for the rest of your life, work with a therapist, do this on your own. You may never get down to solving the underlying issue of what you're avoiding in terms of where did this emotion come from? Was this from my relationship with my mother? Like, all of that could take the rest of your life, or you may never get there. So it's not about solving every root trauma.
Right.
It is about being able to be with the emotion
In the moment.
and allow it to exist without judgment
Yeah.
and without avoidance. That's what this is about. So you may not, because here's the thing, we're always going to have a whole spectrum of emotions. You are labeling some of these emotions as bad or not okay to have, and that's what's happening. You're judging these emotions as not something you should experience, not something you want to experience. And here's the thing, it's okay to feel bad sometimes.
Yeah.
And
Well,
there's nothing to fear about feeling bad, about having what you would call negative or bad emotions. First off, there is no such thing as negative or bad emotions. All emotions just are. They are
yes.
a state of being. It's how you're feeling in that moment. And they all come and they all go, and none of them last very long.
Yes.
You don't stay in the same emotional state for even a few hours, let alone a day. We're not monks living on a mountaintop somewhere meditating all day.
Yeah.
We live lives and we're going to be triggered, and you're not going to live a life that is never going to have a trigger again. So it's not about fixing and solving and removing the triggers. This is why
Okay,
I
so you
always
just,
like to
oh my
say,
God.
I don't want you to have to live in a straitjacket with padded walls for the rest of your life. It's not about shielding yourself from ever being triggered or having an emotion again. That's not the answer.
Emotions are not the problem.
Your inability to feel the emotions is the problem.
Yes. Here's a layer. I'm going to peel a little onion layer back, I think. I'm thinking about Is it the emotion that you're trying to avoid, or is it the message that the emotion is sending you that you're trying to avoid? If I'm feeling angry, it's because there's something about a situation that I feel I can't control, or there's something about a situation that is triggering something from my childhood, or whatever it is. So it's not the emotion that you are really, it's not the emotion you're trying to avoid. It's that emotion is telling you there's something you need to look at. That's what you're trying to avoid.
Yes. Here's the thing.
Right?
Emotions are
signals.
They are communication.
Yes.
Right? They're a communication.
Yes.
They are a signal, a symptom of something that needs to be looked at. Oh, I love this way that it was explained to me when I did trauma work. Essentially, and you can not believe in this stuff all you want, but it's there and it's existing whether you believe in it or not. There is an inner child that is wounded. You have a part of you. If you're not okay with the term inner child because that turns you off, then there's probably something you need to look at. Number one, if you're being triggered by that. But just consider it a part of yourself. There's a part of yourself that is asking and begging for your attention. And the reason why we call that an inner child is what do children do? Mm-hmm. They're begging for attention. They need attention. So when they're acting up, screaming, yelling your name, crying, acting, behaving, what is it called? Acting out, right? What they're asking for is for you to look at them.
Right.
To be seen.
That's how they communicate.
And
that's
there's a part of you that needs to be seen and felt and understood and just been with. Because we talk about, that's the other thing with such a perfect analogy. Being with yourself is like being with that child that needs attention. Mm-hmm. I've used this analogy before. When your child needs something, you don't put it in a closet and close the door and say, I can't deal with you right now. It's just sitting there. I mean, I don't know, he is Gen X. Maybe that is.
Keep your mouth shut. I want to hear you.
You would be an abusive parent.
Yeah.
You'd get locked up for that, right? I can't deal with you right now. Go to the basement, Yeah. Shut up, basically, right? That's what you're telling yourself every time you go for food. You don't deserve my attention. You don't deserve to be looked at. I don't want to hear what you have to say. Mm-hmm. Shut up.
Yep. I don't know if there's anything I can add to that.
And the only way to get yourself, your child, to ever stop what they're doing, and really it's you, to get yourself to stop what you're doing and be with that child.
Yeah.
Is to practice being with the child.
Yes. Here's the thing, and I love this, and we're going to take this a step further, is as a parent, you have to understand that kids don't know how to communicate. So when they're doing things that are irritating, when they're trying to tell you what they need, it's not their fault for getting irritated, it's yours. Right? It's not their fault for you getting irritated because they're trying to ask for help. So when you're getting irritated and when you're trying to avoid the signals that your emotions are sending you, that's your inner person, your inner child, your inner psyche, your id, saying, hey, I need help.
Yeah.
I need to work through something. And you're telling it, you're not important enough for me to spend time on you right now. I don't want to deal with you.
Yep.
And you can't do that. Your relationship with your inner person is the same as you as a parent with your child.
What that does is you're creating a bigger wound. So you're telling yourself you're not worth it.
Yep.
You're not enough.
Yep.
And I'll let you in on a little secret. The root of every single issue, if you drill down far enough, is always the same. Not enoughness. Mm. That's the core wound. That's what's underneath every other emotional wound. Trauma. I am not enough. And a lot of that does come from exactly that when we were being raised.
Yeah.
And we were being annoying because we needed something and our parents said not now.
Because here's the thing.
It happened to all of us.
It happened to all of us. No parent is perfect. And as a parent, I'm not perfect. I've made more mistakes than I care to share. And it's just, we're human beings. We were talking, I forget what we were watching or talking about the other day. We were like, that's just proof that everybody's fucked up.
Yeah. We did.
There is not a single human on this planet that doesn't have some kind of crap that's happened to them and totally screwed up some part of their perception of reality.
Yep.
It's just how we are. We're human beings. So we all have this stuff to do. We all have this work to do. That's why we all have the same problems.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
That's why this isn't something that's isolated to,
Because
only a few people have to deal with this.
It's
Everybody's
all
got
symptom of
mind
the
stuff
same thing.
to work through.
You are not enough. So teach yourself, and this is what I shared with my client the other day. You have to give yourself evidence.
Mm-hmm.
The only way you get that evidence, and once you get that evidence that you're capable of doing something, you have confidence. And it's more likely you're going to do it again and again. It's the exact same thing as going to the gym, starting a new fitness routine, starting a new health routine, all of these things. You have no confidence that you're capable of doing it at the beginning.
Okay.
Because you haven't done it.
I love how you said that because Jody just commented, I've recently discovered that I've avoided my emotions because in my perception, acknowledging them made me weak.
Ooh.
And I love that you said that, Jody. Thank you for sharing because in line with what you just said, acknowledging your emotions makes you stronger.
Yes.
Because number one, it takes internal, what we call intestinal fortitude to acknowledge that you have something that you need to address. It's a challenge. You can't be weak by facing a challenge. Those two things don't work.
That's what
You're
bold,
weak by
courageous,
avoiding them.
strong people do.
Right?
That's a reframe. You need that. It's a limiting belief.
Yeah.
Right? That my emotions make me weak is a limiting belief. You now have to challenge that belief. And you've done the first step. This is the cool thing. You've done the first step by identifying what that limiting belief is. A lot of people, once again, they're in the dark on this stuff.
Yeah.
They have no concept that this is even happening. And so this is why one of the first steps I recommend is getting curious.
I love that word. That's the best word ever.
About what's happening in your brain, about the self-talk. So, and this is the first step also to learning this whole, being with your emotions. The first step is setting the intention. And this goes back to your why. When I have this desire to fix something in my life, why do I have that desire to fix this thing in my life, right? When you have that why, now you can say, okay, I'm going to set the intention that this is what I'm going to do because it's connected to my why. So this is the first step of the changing the old autopilot to become a new autopilot, because what you want is ultimately what my client asked. How do I stop this before it starts?
Right.
Well, at first you have to start after the fact. And you have to build this new habit that creates this new pathway and loop. So now when you get triggered, because once you've practiced it so much, once you get triggered, now you're going to have a new autopilot. You'll have a new default setting that sends you into, there's probably something coming up here. Let me get curious about my thoughts. So this is why I say this is the first step, is just setting the intention. This could be, don't even try to go into the difficult thing yet. You have to make it easy. So start by, I'm going to carry around a little notepad with me. Or I love having set an alarm once an hour. And then even on your phone, I like to use my phone notes for a lot of stuff. Once an hour, it'll say, what are your thoughts?
What's going through your head?
What's going through your head? You just have to start becoming more aware of the conversations happening up here. And at first, the answer is always going to be, I don't know.
Yeah.
Because we're not trained, unless we've trained ourselves to do it, to listen to the inner workings of our mind. And that's where you'll start to understand what's happening. If you're not practicing that ahead of time, there's no freaking way you're going to identify that in the moment that you're having a binge urge.
Right. I like the mini journal. Whenever you, I might make this and call it like the cravings tracker or something. Like anytime you're feeling like I want to go do this, just write down on a piece of paper 3 things. What's the time? What's the date? Whatever. What's the scenario? What's happening? In one sentence. It doesn't have to be, I'm going to write a book. Just what's happening right now.
What's going on in my surroundings?
And then how do I feel? And that's it. Right? I just got home and none of the dishes were clean. My kids didn't do the dishes like they're supposed to when they get home from school. And then I'm really pissed off and I want a bag of chips.
That is brilliant.
That's it. And that's all you got to write down.
And that's essentially, gosh,
Right.
why did we never do this before? that's what we ask our clients when they tell us they've had an episode. There just needs to be, we just need to create a
It's
journal.
just a little thing, like just a couple things, and then you're going to start doing that whether you write it down or not, and then you can start looking at your patterns of, hey, every time I'm feeling like this, these are the ways I'm responding. You start making the connections and you start building that process of being self-aware and understanding what your triggers and habits and all those things are. Then you can start looking at, the other questions of why do I feel angry with this? Then we get into a whole nother discussion of, which we could probably do a whole nother thing about, taking control of the environment and taking control of situations and understanding that part of the process that we're talking about down the road, there's further into the process, is evaluating, can I do something about it or not? And then being okay with the answer, whichever way it lands. If you can't do something about it, you have to let it go. You can't hold on to that and be like, no, but I want so much of it. That's energy you can't afford to spend. That's maybe another talk for another day.
Absolutely.
So, all right, do you have anything to add? Because, we're almost at 40 minutes.
I just saw this great comment, so I want to address this. Ron's Keto Cafe. When I get depressed and want to emotionally eat, I go out and walk. I average 3 miles a day. I have taken off 110 pounds in 3 years of my journey. First off,
that's awesome. Fantastic.
And I would say what's probably so powerful here about this one, because a lot of the time people come in, the first thing they want is, what can I do instead of eating? And so they start with the habits. What can I go to instead, right? And that's a great first place to start, especially when you have so much resistance. We talk about resistance a lot. There's a lot of resistance to feeling the feelings. So you might be able to identify, I'm having an emotional event and I want to eat and I feel this way.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to eat. And then you still make the decision to eat because you have you don't even, if you first off, it's like your brain is going to tell you everything it can to get you to not deal with the emotions. Yeah. So if you don't have like a quick list of other habits you can go to, breaking that, creating the pattern interrupt is going to be very difficult because you're just going to still have in your mind only one solution, which is going to the food, right? So a place I like to start is, let's create some practical things you can do instead of
Give yourself a list of options.
And so this is where a lot of people start. They take a walk, they put on a song, they, watch videos, they call a friend, there's all these things, right? The reason why a walk would be powerful is
especially if you're alone.
Especially if you're alone, if you don't have headphones on, you're not listening to a podcast, you are especially going outside in nature and just being with yourself, it could afford you the opportunity to start to process some of these things. Yeah. But what I will say is that for most people, when they're just going to a new activity, it tends to still be avoidant activity. So you could be taking that walk and listening to a podcast or listening to music or doing something else that's distracting you. And these are now just these other things are just distractions that are healthier, better options than the food, right? It's just like, okay, maybe you go from standard American diet to junk keto, and that's a step in the right direction. And then
standard American
junk,
keto.
and it's standard American keto. So you're doing, these are improvements and they're absolutely going to help you get the weight off. But are you leaning into the emotions or not? Right. And that's like the next step is, you may have, and because for so many people like my client, I'm capable of avoiding it for 5 weeks, for however much time, and then boom, it happens again. Why does this keep happening again after weeks or months? Because you never really dealt with the real issue. So the habits can help you to a point until they don't. Yeah,
you got to deal with the issue, guys. You've heard us say it before, and we're going to say it for the next 30, 40 years while we're doing this, and that is the food and the fitness is easy. This is the stuff that coaches are for. This is the stuff that community is for. This is the stuff that accountability partners are for. This is the stuff that improving the way that you think about yourself and how you perceive the world is where all of the changes happen. It doesn't matter if you're keto, it doesn't matter if you're carnivore, it doesn't matter if you're vegan, right? The food choices you make are lower on the scale than the mental things that you do to develop your own sense of identity and personality and self. So work on those things and everything else will figure itself out. But you can't get it if the top part isn't done.
It's like a house built on a bad foundation, right? You can paint the walls, you can do all these things inside the house to make it look better, but if the foundation is cracked, you're eventually effed because it's just going to make it worse and worse not dealing with the foundation. So deal with the foundation, and then all the other things are also it's going to work.
Yeah.
Because when you're no longer turning to foods for comfort, that's the biggest piece that will change regardless of what diet you choose.
Yeah.
Because all diets have their form of junk and nutritious options.
Yeah.
And the reason you're going to the junk, it's usually driven by something emotional.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Thanks a lot for listening, guys. We will see you next week at the same late time, because we never start when we actually say we're going to start, but you guys know that by now. I'm just going to put it at like 9 o'clock every Sunday, and then whenever we show up is when we show up. But as always, thank you very much. If you guys have any questions, y'all, post comments in here on Nat's YouTube or Nat's Instagram on my YouTube. And if there's anything specific, hey, thank you, Jody. If there's anything specific that you'd like us to talk about, we do get content and we do get ideas from working with you guys. But if there's anything specific you guys have, maybe next week we could do just like an open question and answer thing.
Yes,
or something. We haven't done anything like that. We haven't done that. So start getting your questions together, and then we'll get on next week. We'll do the same. Oh wait, next week is the cruise.
No,
next week you're doing your show.
And I'll be on my photo shoot at that time. So
we got to figure out. Ooh, do we want to do it Saturday?
No, because that's the day I have to be there for the show. So
So we're going to be. We may have to postpone next week. Because this lady is going to be walking around on stage in a bikini all weekend.
You know what? We could do it after the photo shoot. On Sunday,
at the hotel?
Like later in the day.
Well, where are we going to be, though?
That's a good question.
Because we won't be in the hotel.
We're probably going to want to go to brunch after.
Yeah.
And then we'll have to leave
I mean, if the weather's nice, we could do it outside somewhere.
Well, that would be cool. We should do that. Later in the day on Sunday.
So maybe what we'll do, and then that'll be good because if it's question and answer, it's not quite as...
And I can share an update of how the weekend went.
Yeah, okay. So we will try to be on next week with a question and answer session.
Noonish,
hopefully, if the weather's nice, it'll be outside somewhere. Otherwise, we'll have to... I mean, we could still hang out at the hotel and find a space somewhere to do a video. That'd be fine.
Put it on in the car on our drive home.
Are we doing dinner Saturday? Are we doing dinner Saturday night, not Sunday night? Okay. Yeah, we could do it on the car on the way home. I won't get into an accident. Or we could just do it later on Sunday.
That's what I said.
Like later.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Like afternoon, evening.
Afternoon, evening, sure. We'll
Okay.
get coffee
We'll
chat.
figure something out.
I'll have decaf.
Yeah, it'll be a...
Hot cocoa chat.
Hot cocoa chat. See you later, guys. Thank you very much for that.
Thanks, Jody.
I don't even know what that's called, Jody. What is that called?
It's not a super light.
A super light, something like that.
Something like that.
Appreciate it, guys. See you.
Bye, y'all.